Okay, good afternoon. I think we'll get started, and if we have any more joining, we'll welcome them in. Thank you so much for carving out some time to connect today. My name is Manuel Ponce. I am a professor and director of the Institute of School Leadership and Administration. This is the institute that goes through and provides training for your preliminary administrative credentials, and also has an MA in school administration. And so I'm going to go through just very quickly our credential program. Our credential program is completely online, but it is not completely asynchronous. So we do connect and work together in cohort models, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. If there are any questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to raise your hand to add something to the chat, and we will definitely get any questions answered. And then at the end of the program, you can also ask any questions that you might have for the program. So let's get started. So when we think about leadership, we think about why. And we deal a lot at LMU and in the institute about our why. Why is it that we want to be leaders? What what drives us? What inspires us? And a couple of things. Number one, I think that as educators, especially if you're in the classroom, teachers, you're already a leader. You're a leader by virtue of the work that you do. And so but I also know that there's opportunities for us to interrogate our vision, find out ways to make better decisions as leaders, but also how can we influence and support our schools and our communities in that leadership position. It also allows us, if you have the credential and you have the MA, it allows you to open doors for higher level administrative positions. A lot of district central office positions now, even things like coaches and coordinators, now require the administrative credential in order to be competitive in that for that position. So, three key principles for our program. Number one, we are and always will be grounded in social justice. We are unapologetic that this is about the whole child, the whole person, and promoting equity across all. And that is what our culturally responsive leadership programs are influenced by that work. Second, our program is not as long as other programs. We cut out the superfluous things and make sure that the work that we're doing is practical. We want you to be prepared to lead on day one. And so we try to keep things from just being theoretical, and we try to be very rigorous in combining theory to practice and giving you opportunities to exercise that muscle as you go through the program. Third, we are committed to your success. And in that way, because we are not a large program, we don't admit huge numbers in our cohorts. We keep them very small so that you have that individualized attention. You also have a team, a network, and a department, an office that supports you and will be able to support you in person and ensure that you have what you need to be successful. I'll talk a little bit about our program. So our program is delivered with working professionals in mind. We all know that you have full-time positions. You're working more than 40 hours a week, let's be honest. And so we want to make sure that this is doable for those educators. So it is done executive style, meaning that on we meet on Saturday mornings. You'll take two classes from about 8 to 12 with a break in the middle. And we don't meet every Saturday. We meet synchronously about 5 or 6 times during a 15 or 16 week semester. That's when we come together on Zoom, everybody together working as a cohort collaboratively and going through the learning experiences. On the off weekends, you are doing things like readings, preparing projects, completing assignments, digging deep into your own leadership and reflection, and that will prepare you for our next in-person session. So we try to make sure that it's we've had our program be on Thursday evenings, Wednesday evenings, but I know it's very tough after you've had a long day of teaching and working in schools, and then you go to a class at 7 p.m. and be expected to really speak and think deeply about racism in schools or meritocracy. It's not going. It doesn't work as well. So the Saturday allows you to be present and allow yourself to really engage and dive in to these materials. One other calling card of our program is you are assigned a mentor. Collaboratively, we check to see what you're looking for, and we assign a mentor to you to work with you from start to finish in the program. Those are tried and true professionals and principals. Many of them are our alumni who have gone through the program and can speak to it. They're there to work with you side by side and support you and mentor you as you go through the credential program. So what are some admissions requirements for this program? You have to have, by the time you enter, 3 years, at least 3 years of successful teaching with a valid California credential. Now, teaching credential is the most prevalent one, but you can also have credentials such as a PPS credential, which if you're a counselor or school psychologist, we also look at those as well. There's a couple of other that we don't have many that apply with it, but there's more information that we can bring you on that too. You have to, by the time you finish the program, you have to have a clear teaching credential. That is a requirement of the state to ensure that you have uh, enough teaching experience to qualify for the administrative credential. You'll need two positive letters of recommendation. Pretty straightforward for a graduate program or a college program. One of them has to be from your direct supervisor, whether it's a principal, assistant principal, someone who evaluates your work. And the second can be anyone who can speak to your leadership capacity. There's also an admissions interview as well, and that's all done by our faculty and staff. So this is tuition from last year. There is going to be a tuition slight tuition increase for next year. But what we try to do is make sure that we're giving as much access to um, as much access as we can, so we provide a tuition scholarship. Right now for the credential is $8,000. We're negotiating, hopefully give more, but I want to at least be able to give that next year. And so we're focused on creating opportunities to bring that tuition in, which then brings your tuition down into a more competitive amount. The key for us is there's a couple of keys here when it comes to our program and the tuition. Number one, it's a private institution. We understand that, but it is completely and completely focused on the ideas of social justice and ensuring that we are pushing the ideas of creating equity for all and being culturally responsive in our teaching, in our experiences, in the professors that we hire and bring on to teach in the program. A lot of them are past practitioners. We have our mentors. All of your tuition goes towards that work. Uh, and also, we try to ensure that we are giving the quality that you need. It's also a shorter program. Our program is 3 semesters, as opposed to programs that are 2 or 3 years long. And we try to make sure that you're prepared on day one to get those positions. And so our program is pretty comprehensive, follows the same standards as many others, but we want to make sure it's more conducive to working professionals, and we make sure that you're ready to lead on day one. And we've had many alumni make their way into leadership positions now and still come back to support our program. So I wanted to thank you again for kind of listening to that quick presentation, and I am open to answering any and all questions that you might have about the program itself. Yes, Laura.
Hi, thanks for that information. So
Sure.
is a couple questions.
Yep,
One, you're talking just about the admin credential here in 3 semesters, is that correct?
that's correct.
And then is there an option to go on and do the master's?
Yes, great question. So that was the second part. So
Okay.
yes, you can. So the masters you can do concurrently if you'd like. So we
Oh,
utilize the units that you take in the credential, also double for master's units. All you would need is to add 14 additional units to that credential, and you would complete the MA in school administration as well. There are candidates that do it simultaneously. So they would start, for example, we start in the fall, but the
mhm.
MA students would start taking a class in the summer before, and then they add classes throughout. Most of them take the majority of their units in that next summer, where they don't have any credential classes, so they can add electives, and all of those are online as well.
Okay, so that would be 2 summers to do the master's and then in the course of the year to do the credential. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. So right. So the credential will go through three semesters, so about
Okay,
a year and a half.
okay,
And the masters, yes, you would be able to place in the master's courses within that sequence to be done at the same time, or some students do a class or two for the masters after the credential is completed in that spring. But that's really up to you as the candidate.
okay, got it. So when we apply, do we indicate that or is that something? Okay,
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can do both at the same time. You would start with your masters with the credential, because the master's is a degree program and the credential is what they call the certificate. And so you would add the degree first and then your certificate, and you would do both. You could do both together.
okay, thank you. And then, so no more Thursday classes. I read that online, but are you guys doing away with that and just Saturday?
No more Thursday classes. We are now just executive style
Okay,
Thursdays. When I was in the program, I actually graduated from this program myself,
oh, okay,
the one that I direct. And so when I was in the program, it was Thursdays, some Friday and Saturdays.
okay,
That was just for a working professional. That's just not okay. So we try to make it more conducive to those that are doing the work. So that Saturday 4 hour block or so,
mhm.
you can roll up, have your coffee, be just present and engage in the class.
Okay, great. And then when's the deadline?
So we have a rolling deadline. The priority deadline is well, today's what is it? What's today? March
March.
11th. It's all blending together at this point. So the priority deadline, because we've had this open for a while, priority deadline is April 1st.
Okay,
However, if as long as you get it in by, I would say, June 1st,
mhm.
you'll be set to go.
Okay, and when does the summer program start?
The summer program starts in the last month of the summer, so it's basically August.
Okay. And then I lost you a little bit when you were talking about the money. So is the 8,000 scholarship for those that apply and some get it and some don't, or does everybody get it?
Good question. It's guaranteed.
Oh, okay,
If you apply and enroll, it's a guaranteed scholarship. So there's no application, there's no merit, there's no financial statements, nothing of that nature. It's our opportunity to provide opportunity and access. Last year it was $8,000. I anticipate it being the same, but that's negotiated every year, which is also why the priority application window is there, because we want to make sure we have the funds for that. Um, but yes, it's a guaranteed, and we'll be able to be very clear on the amount. Now, if you do the masters as well, the masters units also come with a scholarship as well, and somewhere between 5 and 7,000. So you would get that in addition to your credential scholarship as well.
okay. And then last question, sorry. I'm
That's all right.
asking, um,
Please do.
how big is the cohort?
We try to cap the cohorts between 15 and 18 students.
Okay.
There's some years that we've gone to 19, 20 when we're like, you know what, these two need to be a part of this group, and we'll put them in instead of splitting them to another one. So we usually have about 15 to 18, and that's just to make sure we can dedicate the time and space, and the professor can really work individually as much as possible with the cohort.
Okay, and then is that all you take is 15 or 18 candidates, or do you have multiple cohorts?
We will have multiple cohorts if we have enough enrolled, right? Sometimes we've had 3 cohorts. Right now we have 2, one in the Bay, one in LA. We have, we kind of mix and match depending on who we get, right? And I think that's one of the that's the richness of our program, is we're very eclectic. We have folks that are in traditional public schools, in charter schools, in Catholic schools, independent schools. We have educators who've been in the game for 20 years and educators that are just in their 3rd or 4th year.
Okay.
And we try to mix and match and give opportunities, because to sit next to someone who's been a charter leader for 10 years or a Catholic school leader for 10 years and be able to have those kinds of questions and discussions, they learn from each other, from that richness and that experience. So we try to create a very open and eclectic group.
Great.
Uh,
Okay. Mix them up. So it's kind of
that's
back. Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes.
Is this a customizable program in any point? So my background is I have a California Clear Credential in teaching,
Okay.
and I also have a doctorate in education. So I'm
Okay.
wondering if there might be some courses that I, would kind of be able to elect out of, or is it kind of set and I have to take all the courses that are offered?
Good question. We definitely take a look at what you have done before
Okay.
to see whether or not we might be able to match those courses. Now, the problem with the credential is that it's dictated by the state.
Hmm.
And so there are very specific standards that need to be reached in a certain way for
Yeah.
all credential programs, as you would know. And some of the doctoral classes don't go as specific enough into those pieces. And we've had some struggle with matching doctoral
Yeah.
classes.
Right.
Now, if there are some master's programs that get a little more specific, but we would definitely take a look at it. But there's
Okay.
really no guarantee, especially because the doctoral classes can be very broad and rich in other
And,
pieces
and,
and,
and
and things like that.
theoretical. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful, because the administrative credential is very much based on performance expectations
Right.
as opposed to theory. And
Right.
so we take a look always,
Okay.
but the doctoral one are the tougher ones to match.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
I came up with another question.
Please.
Okay, so I'm going to mess up the name. It's not Cal TPAs, but the admins need to take their version of that. What's it called?
It's called the Cal APA.
Okay, so I was close to it. Okay.
Yeah,
Can you speak to like how the program either embeds that or helps candidates pass that, or how is the passage rate on that? What's
absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. So the Cal APA, because the CTC is not as creative in names, so they name them all the same stuff. So the Cal APA is the California Administrative Performance Assessment, and it's broken down into 3 cycles. And so they're basically 3. It's very much like the Cal TPA. It mirrors it very much so, and it's even administered by Pearson for the state also, same as the teaching one. So basically, you have 3 cycles. The first cycle is data gathering and identifying an equity gap at your school site. That's the first cycle, and that's it.
Okay.
Second cycle is convening communities of practice and PLCs to find remedies for that equity gap,
Okay.
right? And you have to have PLC meetings, you have to record them, tag them, just like you did when you recorded yourself teaching and things like that, right? The last one is now coaching a teacher to implement some of those strategies that the PLC came up with to try to remedy that equity gap.
Okay.
So those
So
are the 3 cycles.
videos, taking the videos, right? Okay.
Correct. And the coaching session and kind of tagging, making sure they meet the rubric. What we've done at our university, and other universities have done similar things, we've embedded that as part of our program.
Okay.
And so the coursework is aligned to what you're doing in that cycle. So in the first semester, there's a class that you take. Among other things that you learn in the course, you're also looking at equity gaps, equity gap analysis, gathering data, etc. Second semester, you're working around PLCs and stakeholder groups so that you're informed for your CalPA 2. And the last semester, you do instructional coaching and instructional leadership, which aligns to that too. So the coursework is aligned in terms of the skills you're learning and the things you're learning in order to do it. But we go above and beyond. With the CalAPA, your mentor that is assigned to you is basically your CalAPA coach as well.
Okay.
So they get trainings. We train them once a month. They support you with creating your CalAPA, working through your CalAPA, making sure you submit on time, all of those things. They're trained to support you with it. We also have a CalAPA coordinator who meets with you every so often in a semester to download more ideas and thoughts around the CalAPA for that semester. Where are you right now? Give you benchmarks to make sure you're on time, support you with answering questions. So we really created this process that you are embedded as part of your program. And I'm very happy to say right now we have above a 90% passage rate of CalAPA first time through.
Wow, it's pretty good.
We do have some if you don't pass, we go into support mode and we create a plan for you to submit the next time. And we've had 100% pass on the second implementation. Because you get feedback. So we kind of go through and we target it. We add another mentor that's really good at that part and they support you with that. So that makes sure that you're on there. We don't want that to be a barrier to your success.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
Yep.
Would you say the students that are in the program, is it a mix of Catholic and private and public, or is it mainly public? Like, how does it, I'm in a Catholic school, so I'm just kind of wondering what the makeup of the class.
So I would say, yeah, good question. I would say probably 60 to 70% will be public school, whether it's traditional or charter.
Okay.
But we always have a percentage of Catholic school leaders, typically.
Okay.
Now,
And then,
what we do to support that is we want you to bring your lens. So we want you to bring what your experience is to the table. So when we're talking about instructional practice, for example, we don't want you to throw what you've done out the window and say, we just learned these pieces. We want you to bring in your curriculum. We want you to bring in your observation templates. We want you to use the things that you use at your school site. Because what we try to do is boil it down to leadership is leadership. And regardless of where you are, whether it's a Catholic school, charter, traditional, public, we want good schools. And so, and with leaders for good schools. So we try to boil it down, but we never shut out someone who might say, in my Catholic school, here's how we do things. Okay, let's dig into that. Let's discuss what are the pros and cons. What can we learn from your experience and what can you learn from theirs? So, and we've done that from the very beginning. So we have that's why I say that I think there's a richness in that to understand. And ultimately we start to understand that we have a lot more in common than we do have uncommon. And
in
it
public,
becomes powerful.
okay, no, that sounds good. And then if you wanted to do, I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. If you're doing the are you guys not semester? Are you,
We're semester.
you are semester? Okay. So if you were doing the credential and the masters, that would be like a 2-year program?
Yes, but you would complete your credential in a year and a half.
Okay.
So that one will be done and you can get that process going and get it through the CTC. while you're finishing your master's if you want to go that extra semester.
And the master is just really an extra semester.
Correct.
Okay. Last question. Some schools offer like ed leadership and you guys offer a master's in administration. Can you just talk about the differences?
Sure. So we have a master's in ed leadership, right?
Okay.
And we have a master's in school administration.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Ed leadership is much more broad. The audience for ed leadership is not that's not tied to just California standards. It's tied to leadership standards, national leadership standards.
Okay.
And the audience for that is usually uh, folks that are in the education space, but not necessarily going to lead schools.
Okay.
So they might be board members. They might be um, those that want to, philanthropists or nonprofit leaders in the education space, just wanting to know more. We've had a couple of political team members who are advising on education, and they've done those programs so that they understand a little bit more to speak to their representative and have that kind of understanding. So it's much more broad. It won't work. It won't hit as many hands-on kind of case studies for like a school in California. And so it's a little bit general. Those that want to become school administrators, school administration is focused on these are the things you're going to need to know in California in order to get that position as a principal, as a director, as a superintendent, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have another question, but I want to see if the other folks might want to chime in
Sure.
if they have any questions before I go again.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from our other guests?
Okay. If not, just one more question. The underlying kind of, I think, unspoken but probably more explicit in the admission application process is that I'm working at a school already. And
Okay.
what if I'm not? So what if I'm doing like education consulting and not directly at a school? Is there any help for finding? I mean, I'd be open to
Sure.
finding a position. But yeah, we just want to hear more about that.
Sure. Good question. So we have a lot of folks that are in like district level positions. So they're not necessarily with a specific school. So it could be kind of a similar thing. The one thing that has to be available is you have to be connected to a school site that will allow you to do the things you need to do for not only the coursework, but for that Cal APA. So they have to be willing to give you access to their data, right? There's public data that you can get from anybody, right? But then there's some specific individual insight data around faculty, around students' backgrounds, all those kinds of things. So you need to be able to access that.
Okay.
And you'll have to be able to access some of the teachers and educators on campus to be a part of your PLC, for example,
Yeah.
or that you have to coach because you have to record them. They have to be teacher of record. Those kinds of things are the little bit of the barriers
Yeah.
if you're not in the district or in the school. Um, Central district folks, like we've had associate superintendents, things like that, or directors. They'll just go connect with the school, and because they're a part of that, they're employed by the school
Right.
district.
Right. Right.
They have access to all of that.
Right.
And so that would just be the challenge. But we've had folks that have done it. But it is a little bit more challenging. But we work with you to identify a school. We have a lot of network partners that would be like, hey, not a problem, come through. We've
Okay.
we've found that charters are much more open to allowing that because they don't
Yeah.
have to go through so much bureaucracy in
Right.
terms of the board. So
Right.
they're a little more nimble. We have tons of charter leaders as well that can help you with it. So we definitely support, but that's the challenge.
Okay. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't like not apply because I don't right now have a
Oh
solution.
no,
Just
no,
will
you
apply
yeah,
and then,
for sure. We would brainstorm and
okay,
find a solution for sure. Yeah.
that'll be great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions tonight. Any additional questions? We have two other guests on the call. Any clarifying anything at all?
Hi, my name is Sarani Vari, and I already submitted everything, but I know you said that we needed to have our supervisor give us a letter of recommendation. Can I still go back and do that?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
because basically right now you would be a provisional acceptance, and
Uh-huh.
we wouldn't be able to officially accept until we have like all the paperwork that we need.
Okay.
But yes, I would definitely go back and do that. We won't start going through applications until that priority deadline comes through in April.
Okay.
So you have some time. So I would just make my way in and do
All
that when you
right.
can.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? I'll put my glasses on first so I can see what I'm typing, but I'm gonna put my email in the chat. And feel free if you have any additional questions that happen. And we know it happens sometimes. The moment you get off a Zoom or a call, you think of the question that you wanted to ask. So please feel free to send me an email. I will respond and give you any answers. If you want to set up another conversation, whether it's to help walk through the application or any additional pieces, that's why we keep our programs smaller, so that I can connect you with either myself, I can help you, or I can connect you with our dedicated staff, advisors, and program coordinators that can help you make sure you have everything all set and ready, and we'll take care of it. We're here to support you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
And the whole thing is remote. There's not any days that we come in person. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct. It is all remote.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Yep.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.